Okay, so hello mga students. Welcome back. Tayo po ay mag-aaral ngayon ng IAS 2 on inventories. But this will be just an overview discussion of the standard. As you will see, we will be directly discussing the content or some of the contents of the IAS 2 on inventories. So you can access this standard if you log in to ifrs.org, no? You can register this. You can register on this for free. Okay, now IAS 2 discusses, no, sets out the standards for the account of inventories. Okay. Now, of course, mga kapatid, hindi naman po natin iisa-isahin ang mga paragraphs na nandirito sa IAS 2. We will only capture, highlight some of the key paragraphs that we will need to capture, no? Yung mga kinakailangan. So, hindi po natin ito iisa-isahin, don't worry. Kasi although etong standard na ito ay medyo maiksi lang, pero syempre it will also consume us time. So kindly supplement, kindly support this video lecture with your own reading of this standard if you like, and I highly suggest that you read also the standard, not only those from the books. Okay, so what is the objective of IAS 2 on inventories, no? Of course, the objective of this standard is to prescribe the accounting treatment for inventories. So ano-ano nga ba? Paano ba natin i-account yung inventories? And when we are talking of inventories, ano ba kasi yung common concern natin dito? Of course, no, yung common concern natin dito is how do we measure, how do we recognize, and at what amount, no? So ito yung sinasabi dito na yung primary issue in accounting for inventories is the amount of cost to be recognized as an asset. Because syempre, inventory is a balance sheet item as part of your asset. So how do we recognize this inventory and at what cost, what amount? And how do we measure it moving forward, no? Carried forward until the related revenues are recognized. And syempre, with the matching principle, once there is a revenue recognized, there is also a cost that we need to associate, that we need to incur. Okay? So this standard provides the guidance on the determination of cost and its subsequent recognition as an expense, okay, which is your cost of goods sold, including any write-down to net realizable value. So we will discuss the net realizable value momentarily. Okay? It also provides guidance on the cost formulas that are used to assign costs to inventories. So meron po tayong discussions on cost formulas pero separate, no? Hindi po sa overview na ito. Okay? So kindly take note of the objective of this standard. We will not talk about the scope, no? Kindly read on this na lang. We will proceed with the definition. Ito po, hindi na ito bago. Kasi for the majority of you, and I say majority because there may be some students who may be able to view this video lecture and may not have an idea yet of what is an inventory. But with the purpose of this video lecture, no, the intention is for those students undertaking intermediate accounting, and somehow during their basic accounting or during your basic accounting subject, no, na-encounter na po ninyo yung merchandise inventory. So you already have an idea of what is an inventory. And also, with your cost accounting subject, no, na-introduce na rin kasi yung iba't ibang klase ng mga inventories So meron na po kayong idea what inventories are. But for the sake of everyone's, for the benefit of everyone, let us define what is inventory according to IAS 2. Okay? So, inventories daw are assets, letter A, held for sale in the ordinary course of business. Ito yung ibebenta natin, available for sale. Hinahawakan natin ito para ibenta. Or in the process of production for such sale, as in the case of manufacturing types of business, or in the form of materials or supplies to be consumed in the production process or in the rendering of services. For those of you who have already undertaken cost accounting, you know what this means. Okay? We will also be encountering the term NRV or net realizable value. Maybe for some of you, you were able to encounter this term sa receivables, no? Sa accounts receivable. Kasi 'di ba, the gross receivable less any allowance for doubtful accounts is a net realizable value, 'di ba? Pero when we are referring to the net realizable value, we are not only limiting our understanding of those terms, we are not only using that term for receivables. So dito ibig sabihin dahil nakasama siya sa definition sa past 2 or IAS 2, we will also be using the NRV. At mamaya po explain natin kung saan natin ito gagamitin. Pag sinabi po nating NRV or net realizable value, this is the estimated selling price, okay? Estimated selling price in the ordinary course of business less the estimated cost of completion, okay? And the estimated cost necessary to make the sale, okay? That is the definition of NRV according to the standards. We will also use eventually the term fair value. Although I know for most of you, familiar na po kayo dito sa term na fair value. Okay? And this is, ulitin lamang po natin for the benefit of this discussion. No? This is the price that would be received to sell an asset or paid to transfer a liability, depende if you are the debtor or if you are the creditor, no? Or the buyer or the seller, no? In an orderly transaction between market participants at the measurement date. Okay? Explain natin further. When we are talking of NRV or the net realizable value, it refers to the net amount. Okay? Net amount. Bakit net amount? Kasi nga, meron ka ditong estimated selling price less estimated cost to complete or cost of completion and estimated cost necessary to make the sale. So this is the net amount that an entity expects to realize from the sale of inventory in the ordinary course of business. Okay? Whereas when we are referring to the fair value, ito naman reflects the price at which an orderly transaction to sell the same inventory in the principal or most advantageous market for that inventory would take place between market participants at the measurement date. Okay? So, I hope somehow you have an idea of what these terminologies are all about. Now, on paragraph 8, ano ang sinasabi naman dito? Inventories encompass goods purchased and held for resale. Okay? Sa isang trading type of business, merchandise type of business, excuse me, bibili ka ng produkto, ibebenta mo, that is your, kaya nga ang tinatawag natin, kapag nung pinag-aralan po natin yung merchandising type of business, merchandising operations, no? Ang tawag natin doon sa inventory ay merchandise inventories. Okay? So, for example, merchandise purchased by a retailer and held for resale. Or land and other properties held for resale. Sa mga real estate, no? Sa mga nagbebenta ng mga condominium, nagbebenta ng mga lupa, no? Yung mga hindi po yun part of the property, plant and equipment if the intention is to sell it, no? So that becomes part of your inventory. Okay. Inventories also encompass finished goods produced or work in progress being produced. Kaya po dito sa letter B sa definition ng inventories, no, ito po 'yon. In the process of production for such sale, whether gawa na or hindi pa gawa. Pag gawa na po siya, ito yung tinatawag natin na that is your finished goods. Ito yung tinatawag natin dito na finished goods produced. Kung hindi pa siya gawa, in the process of production, okay, that is your work in progress being produced. Okay? So, syempre, pag finished goods kasi, it will now become available for sale. Kaya nga, yung finished goods, dito yan papasok. Held for sale in the ordinary course of business. For a manufacturing type of business, di ba? For a merchandise type of business, that is your merchandise inventory. In the process of production for such sale, that is your work in progress, or minsan tawag natin dyan, WIP, work in process din. Ano? Okay, so ito yung tinutukoy dito sa paragraph 8. Okay? And also, it includes yung letter C, no? Yung mga materyales, yung mga supplies na gagamitin sa production. Kasi kapag ginamit natin yan sa production, pero hindi po yan, tawag nito, ito na yung mga raw materials inventory na ginagamit natin. Okay? Na eventually, maaring it will form part of your direct material, or if it will be indirect, it will form part of your manufacturing overhead. Okay? But definitely, papasok po yan sa ating work in progress. Alam na po ninyo yan kung natackle na ninyo, tapos na kayo sa cost accounting. Okay. So, cost incurred naman daw. Ito highlight lang din natin ito. Costs incurred to fulfill a contract with a customer that do not give rise to inventories, okay, are accounted for in accordance with IFRS 15, revenue from contracts with customers. Of course, we will not deal on this in details now. Okay. Now, the question is, how do we measure? Paano po ba natin sinusukat yung inventories? Okay, initially, okay, we are recognizing inventories at cost. Kaya nga sa merchandising operations, we are ang objective natin din is to compute for the cost of purchases. Diba? Kasi yung cost of purchases, that will be your merchandise inventories. Subsequently, we will measure the inventories at the lower of cost and net realizable value. O kaya nga mga kapatid, in-explain or define natin kung ano yung net realizable value, because subsequent measurement of inventories, we will have to consider what is the lower between the cost and net realizable value. Okay? Now, when we are referring to the cost, how do we measure the cost? Of course, somehow you have an idea how to compute for it, because usually in the basic accounting or depende sa subject po ninyo. In the first year, kadalasan ito ay binibigay sa first year. So, nagko-compute tayo yung purchase price. Okay? Plus, please take note, the cost of inventories shall comprise all cost of purchases. Diba? Cost of purchases. Pero expound din natin ito through this paragraph 11. Cost of conversion for manufacturing types of businesses. Siyempre, for raw materials, mga materials inventory, kailangan natin i-determine magkano ko to nabili. Pero yun lamang ba talaga? Yung value ba nun? Baka kasi may mga ibang cost na kailangan natin i-consider as capitalizable or inventoriable. Meaning to say, kailangan natin itong i-add as part of your purchases, as part of your inventory. Okay? Cost of conversion and other costs incurred in bringing the inventories to their present location and condition. So, not only the cost of purchase and cost of conversion, but if there are other costs, may iba pa bang mga gastusin na na-incur? And that is important to bring the inventories in their present location and condition. We need to include it as part of that inventory. Okay, now, for the cost of purchase, no? Ano ang bumubuo dito? So, sabi sa paragraph 11, the cost of purchase of inventories comprise the following. Unang-una sa lahat, yung purchase price. Magkano ko ito nabili? Pangalawa, kung meron tayong import duties, okay? And other taxes, lalong-lalo na kung in-import natin galing sa ibang bansa, may mga additional cost tayo that we need to incur, no? May kailangan tayong bayaran sa Bureau of Customs, for example. Okay? So those are import duties and other taxes. Kailangan natin siyang isama, no? Of course, other than those subsequently recoverable by the entity from the taxing authorities. Okay? Other than those subsequently recoverable. Ibig sabihin, etong mga other taxes na ito are irrecoverable, hindi na natin marirecover. Okay? And transport, cost of transportation. So dito papasok yung mga freight in. Okay? Transportation in. Handling and other costs directly attributable to the acquisition of finished goods. Kasi no, lalong-lalo na kung yung inventories natin ay madami, nanggaling sa pier, kailangang i-transfer, no? I-transport from the pier or doon sa port, sa daungan, papunta sa warehouse. Okay? So meron tayong cost of transportation, meron tayong handling cost, okay? That are necessary. Kailangan nating i-incur. Otherwise, paano natin yung pipick upin doon? So those are part of the costs, no? Whether it is the acquisition of finished goods or yung mga materyales, no? Okay. But of course, kailangan aware tayo na binabawas po natin yung trade discounts, no? Rebates and other similar items, no? In determining the cost of purchase. And this is, well, actually, I have a video lecture on this, pero syempre, no, this is a separate video lecture. An older video lecture, na, to be honest. Okay. Now, that is for cost of purchase. Pagdating naman sa cost of conversion, eto, no, hindi ko na ito babasahin. Word for word, statement by statement, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph. Ang tinutukoy lang po natin dito is your cost of conversion. Ano ba yung conversion cost? Eh di syempre, yun yung ating materials, no? Direct labor and manufacturing overhead. So yun po ang tinutukoy ng ating cost of conversion. Include costs directly related to the units of production such as direct labor. And it also include a systematic allocation of fixed and variable overhead. So yung manner of computing for the conversion cost, it has been discussed or it will be discussed in a cost accounting subject. Okay? So yun po yung tinutukoy nitong mga paragraphs na ito. Okay? Now, of course, no, pagdating sa overhead, may allocation kasi tayo, di ba? And that is the purpose of the cost accounting subject. How do we allocate the overhead? And sometimes there are overheads, no, that are unallocated. There are overhead costs that are incurred, pero we only need to identify those overhead costs that are incurred, no, and that will be allocated eventually because of the production. May mga overhead tayo, no, na ma-incur pero hindi related sa production, hindi po natin yun isasama. At ito po yung tinutukoy dito, no, na unallocated overhead are recognized as an expense in the period in which they are incurred. Kaya nga sa cost accounting, meron tayong pinag-aaralan na comparison between product and period cost. Okay? So pag product cost, that is part of your inventory pag period cost expense outright. All right. Okay, now, how about the other costs? Other costs are included in the cost of inventories. Please take note, only to the extent that they are incurred in bringing the inventories to their present location and condition. Okay? Other costs only to the extent that they are incurred in bringing, okay, the asset or that inventory to their present location and condition. Pag hindi po nag-fit dito sa criteria na ito, hindi po natin yan isasama. Okay, now, what are the examples of costs, no, that will be excluded? Hindi po dapat isinasama. Ito yung paragraph 16. Example of costs excluded. Pag sinabi nating excluded, no, dapat hindi kayo dyan nalilito, ha? Included versus excluded. So pag excluded, hindi dapat isinasama. And it will be treated na separate. Okay? And recognized as expenses in the period in which they are incurred. Abnormal amounts of wasted material, labor, or other production costs. Hindi po yan part of inventory. Abnormal amounts. Okay? Storage cost. Excuse me. Ayan, storage cost. Unless yung mga cost na yon are necessary in the production process before a further production stage. Please take note, if that is necessary in the production process, then storage cost will be inventoriable. Otherwise, no, it is not. Okay, so storage cost in general, no, are excluded. Pero kung may term tayo dyan na sinasabi, the storage cost is necessary in the production, the inventoriable yan. Administrative overhead that do not contribute in bringing inventories to their present location and condition. Pasahod ng mga accountants, ng mga accounting staff. Pasahod ng CEO. Okay, syempre, hindi naman yan related sa production. Period cost po yan. And even selling cost, no? O kaya nga, selling and administrative period cost sila. Okay? Anong sinasabi dito? PAS 23 or IAS 23, excuse me. Nangati yung aking lalamunan. Sa IAS 23, on borrowing cost, no? There are limited circumstances where borrowing costs are included in the cost of inventories. Okay, but normally, when we are talking of excuse me, financing, okay, cost of financing, borrowing cost kasi, although it will be discussed separately, pagdating, excuse me, pasensya na doon sa konting abala, aberya, no? Hindi ko na ito ikakat, ha, kasi sayang naman yung mga na-discuss na natin. Anyway, we will not talk about this in detail because pagdating sa property, plant, and equipment, no, under IAS 16, may discussions din kung saan i-incorporate natin yung IAS 23 on borrowing cost. Okay, so we will see about it. But normally, when we are talking of borrowing costs, okay, halimbawa, ito, no, paragraph 18. An entity may purchase inventories on deferred settlement terms when the arrangement effectively contains a financing element. Nangutang tayo. So there is an interest, no? That element, for example, a difference between the purchase price and the amount paid is recognized as interest expense over the period of the financing. That is yung tinatawag natin ng mga finance cost. Okay? Borrowing cost, tapos etong mga financing, no, we are referring to what? We are referring to interests. Okay? So, hindi po natin ito sinasama. Etong paragraph 19, it is already deleted, but perhaps in some of the books, no, local books na yung mga local authors natin na maaaring it is incorporated. So, dinilit na po ito sa ating IAS 2. For ano lang, no, for reference lang, for your information, halimbawa, in the book of Robles and Empleo, na hagip po itong paragraph 19, ano, and it talks about profit margins or non-attributable overheads that are often factored into prices charged by service provider, but it was already deleted in IAS 2. Okay? Cost of agricultural produce, meron tayong pinag-uusapan kasi ng mga biological assets. And biological assets, sa agriculture kasi, IAS 41 or PAS 41 in agriculture, it talks about yan, no, yung mga biological assets, and medyo nakakalito for some, no, kasi merong portion na it should be recorded under PPE, PAS 16, and some will have to be recorded under under PAS 2 on inventories. Okay, pero definitely ano, once we go there, when we discuss biological assets, it will have to be differentiated, no, well, para at least hindi nakakalito. Pero pag sinabi kasi nating ano, no, inventories in relation to agriculture, no, may mga inventories, ito yung mga cost of agricultural produce harvested, yung na-harvest na, bebenta na. Okay, so that becomes inventories. So in accordance with IAS 41 on agriculture, inventories comprising agricultural produce that an entity has harvested, take note, harvested, from its biological assets. Okay, this is measured on initial recognition at their fair value, less cost to sell at the point of harvest. Hindi po natin ito mini-measure at cost, no? It is initially recognized at fair value, less cost to sell at the point of harvest. Okay, but we will deal with this separately pag nandoon na po tayo sa IAS 41, especially sa mga estudyante ko. This is the cost of the inventories at the date for application of this standard. Okay. Now, ano itong techniques for the measurement of cost? Sa inventories kasi, you will be able to encounter, no? Ito, lalong-lalo na, yung pangalawa. Yung retail method. And we will have corresponding computation eventually. Meron tayong mga retail inventory method. Actually, sa inventory measurement, ina-apply din natin yung standard cost. Especially, pagdating sa, sa cost accounting, normally, ang discussion ng standard costing. Comparing it to the normal costing, comparing it to the actual costing. So, techniques for the measurement of the cost of inventory, such as the standard cost method or the retail method, may be used for convenience if the results approximate cost, especially for homogeneous products, no, that are produced in batches, voluminous, pare-parehas lang naman. We have to approximate the cost and it will have to be divided evenly kung magkano man yung na-incur natin na cost, especially yung pag ginagamit natin yung standard costing, no? Okay. So, but of course, the details of the how do we account for standard costing, how do we compute for it, no, is discussed on a cost accounting subject. Pero yun lang, no, dinidiscuss dito sa PAS 2, yung techniques for measurement, and ginagamit natin, it may use, no, yung standard cost or even the retail inventory method. Okay, so we will have a separate discussion. I just don't know if I will be able to make a video lecture for the practice, no, computations, but definitely for my class, we will deal with it, no, through our problem solving exercises. Okay? Now, mga kapatid, we are using cost formulas, no, dito sa inventories. Kasi sometimes, yung cost ng inventories, hindi po natin yan makukuha right away. Lalong-lalo na pag mga multiple purchases, marami tayong binibili. At hindi po natin ma-identify one by one magkano yung cost. Or it will be impractical to identify magkano yung, halimbawa, bumili ako ng 10 box ng chippy. Hindi naman natin kinakailangan na isa-isahin. Diba? Anyway, basahin natin. The cost of inventories of items that are not ordinarily interchangeable. Okay? Ordinarily not interchangeable. And goods or services produced and segregated for specific projects shall be assigned by using a specific identification of their individual cost. So dito sa paragraph 23, we are introduced with the term specific identification method. Kung saan, ginagamit po natin ito kung ang isang inventory ay hindi natin maipaghahalo, we cannot interchange it, no? Halimbawa kasi specific yung project, segregated, no? Special project ito, custom made, no? So we can use a specific identification. Okay? Pag sinabi natin na specific identification, yung cost kasi ma-identify, ma-relate natin for that inventory. Kasi yun lang naman yung ginagawa natin. Okay? So we can identify, we can attribute the cost to that item of inventory. That is a specific identification. Okay? Meron din, no? Paragraph 35 tayo. The cost of inventories other than this, no, sa paragraph 23, shall be assigned by using either FIFO or weighted average cost formula. Okay? So, eto na, meron akong separate na video lecture on this. Actually, sa video lecture na yon, which is around 2 years old na yata, no? Na isama ko pa doon for purposes of illustration, no? Yung tinatawag natin dati na last in, first out, LIFO. Although LIFO kasi is not permitted by the standard. We are only using FIFO and the weighted average. Pero dito, we also need to consider, yan? Periodic inventory system or perpetual inventory system. Kaya nga meron tayong tinatawag na mga moving average or weighted average. So, ito yung tinutukoy natin sa mga cost formulas. Either specific identification or kung interchangeable yung mga products, no? Halimbawa, an entity, ito nabasahin ko lang. An entity shall use the same cost formula for all inventories having a similar nature and use of the entity. Okay? So, yun nga, for multiple production, no, voluminous yung production or yung purchases, we can use first in, first out or weighted average. Siyempre, no, we will deal with the computation part separately. Okay. So, eto no, pakibasa na lang ng paragraph 26 and 27. Especially yung 27, papaano ina-account yung FIFO, papaano ina-account yung ating weighted average. Okay? Or yung, yes, no? Weighted average cost formula. Okay. Now, for this NRV, I'd like you to read on this. We will not tackle this in details for today. Enough na important na siya ngayon. No? Because this is just an overview that we will na-introduce or na-define natin what is a net realizable value. Ang remaining na i-discuss po natin is this recognition as an expense. Pag nabenta mo na yung produkto, kasi bakit ba? Ano bang purpose ng inventory? Para ibenta, di ba? Whether merchandising type of business ka or manufacturing type of business, ibebenta din naman natin eventually. Pag nabenta na yon, we need to expense the related inventory. So when inventories are sold, yung carrying amount of those inventories shall be recognized as an expense in the period in which the related revenue is recognized. Kung kailan nabenta, doon mo din i-recognize yung cost. Okay? Doon natin siya i-expense. The amount of any write-down of inventories to NRV and losses of inventories shall be recognized as expense in the period the write-down or loss occurs. Minsan, ito, separate pa po ito, we need to write down, nira-write off natin yung inventory kung halimbawa, nagkaroon ng losses, karoon ng obsolescence, no? May mga technological changes, halimbawa, naging obsolete na yung, for example, no? May mga produkto na yung saleability nila ay naapektuhan because of technology. Halimbawa, noong umusbong yung mga cellphones, no? yung mga mga brick games. I don't know if you have heard. Siguro naman familiar kayo, no? Brick games, no? Mga laruan namin before. Nung umusbong yung mga computer games, no? Mga mobile devices, maaring nagkaroon ng instances wherein they have to write down, mag-write off sila, no? At para i-measure at the lower of cost and net realizable value. Kasi it was yung salability is affected by the technological advances at medyo hindi na siya kabili-bili. Okay? So in the period of losses or losses also, halimbawa, nagkaroon ng sunog, there is an inventory fire, no? Meron nasunog lahat or partially nasunog, no? So hindi, syempre, we have to recover only what's left. The rest we have to expense out, no? So kailan natin yun i-recognize? I-expense natin yung losses na yon or any write down on the period kung kailan siya nangyari. Yun lang naman po ang tinutukoy nito. The amount of any reversal of any write-down of inventories arising from an increase in NRV shall be recognized as a reduction in the amount of inventories recognized as an expense in the period in which the reversal occurs. No? But definitely, it will be best understood kapag may mga illustrations na. Okay? So, I think that's that's all that we have to discuss. Disclosure, pakibasa. Hindi ko na po ito isa-isahin, but this is important especially on paragraph 36. For FS presentation, ano po ba ang kinakailangan nating i-disclose? So, eto no, A to H. Please make sure to read this. Okay? So, yun lamang. Maraming salamat. Sana po ay nabigyan natin ng hustisya ang overview discussion nitong ating standard number 2 on inventories. If you have any questions, no, please let me know and I'll be happy to assist you. Pero hanggang dito muna tayo sa recording na ito. Maraming salamat. I'll see you virtually or physically. Bye-bye.